I'm about to embark on an epic solo series of train journeys from Cape Town to Cairo. This is going to take in South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, and finally Egypt, traveling alone with minimal equipment. Train stations being security zones, it's not long before I face my first challenge on this 12,500 kilometer trip. I was filming my very first link in the station behind me, and some security guy came up to me and said, "No shooting, no cameras, get out of here." So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the journey up. In the week before I depart, there are 2 major train accidents in South Africa, and I read about a number of robberies, including armed robberies, on these long-haul trains. I'm certainly not leaving my hometown on a high note. The Cape to Cairo route is one of those classic journeys, and it's something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager. So now that I'm doing it, yes, I do feel a bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous. For a lot of people, passing through the Karoo is a boring, tedious experience. It's a vast open area. For others like me, it's a place of great beauty. I can see that trying to be a vegetarian on this trip is going to be a challenge. More than the food or the trains themselves, it's the people I meet that make the journey memorable. Nearing Johannesburg, I chat to Helen about the challenges that lie ahead. I know that you've travelled quite a bit by train around Africa, and probably some of the trains that I'm going to take. What's it been like with delays? What's it been like as experiences?
The biggest delay I had was on the TAZARA train. So that goes from Kipiri in Zambia to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and vice versa. That train was meant to be 48 hours and it was actually 72 hours. I think we broke down, we ran out of fuel. By the end of it, we'd run out of food. I think I was living on spaghetti and omelette. It was fun, but it was long. Okay, so this little 5-hour delay is going to be a drop in the ocean to what I can expect. Probably. Cool. Just to let you know. Yeah, good. Before my next train, I meet writer and adventurer Patricia Glynn for advice on my journey ahead. Patricia has walked, climbed and canoed some of Africa and the world's great rivers and mountains.
It's important to be patient and tolerant and flexible. I mean, there's no such thing as a schedule often. And your whiteness, you know that's going to be...
Hang on a second. Oh my God. White.
You're going to have time and opportunity to get to know a lot of people. Because you're alone, you will be greeted with nothing but kindness, in my view.
And what about safety and security?
Well, you know, if we knew we were going to be safe, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they? You have to accept that you're a risk taker. I'm a risk taker.
Yes, I am a risk taker. And it's hard to beat the streets of Johannesburg for risk taking. A lot of South Africans, when I tell them I'm traveling up Africa, think I'm crazy because it's such a dangerous continent. Actually, South Africa itself has extremely high crime rates. And Johannesburg right here is at the epicenter of that. Before I get to My next train, I have to run the gamut of about 100 meters across that road, and after that I'll probably start feeling safer. From Johannesburg, I travel east to Mozambique, and after that, I'll continue into Zimbabwe. Soon after leaving behind Johannesburg, I meet Clement, a Swiss train driver who takes his holidays on trains, of course.
I'm train driver, mainly for commuters, but at weekends also when you want to go skiing and for leisure.
Okay, you're obviously a train enthusiast. Can you tell me about the places you've been around the world to take trains?
Or in Eastern Europe, but I've taken the train also in Southeastern Asia. I've taken the trail Israel-Palestine. I've taken the train in Latin America, and so on, and so on, and so on. The carriage is huge and it has space. That's what, in my point of view, makes the whole difference to all other means of transport. You can easily mingle with people. If it is a long trip, like the Cape Town, Johannesburg trip, you become kind of a family. You meet the train manager, you meet other passengers, I meet you. So in a bus, you don't really have this.
I agree with Clement, even if we're practically the only passengers on this train. The morning reveals the South African Lowveld on the last stretch before crossing the South Africa-Mozambique border on foot. Well, I got pretty much no sleep at all last night, which is really strange because I had a very comfortable carpet to lie on. I'm now on the train from the Mozambique border to the capital, Maputo. This must count surely as one of the cheapest ways of getting anywhere in the whole world. It works out to about 20 US cents to travel 110 kilometers. And it's a wonderful train ride, as you can see. Crossing into Mozambique, I have finally slowed down to the rhythm of the trains. I feel right at home here, as I do when I'm north of South Africa. The heat in Mozambique at the coastline in midsummer, it's actually just too much. So paying just a little bit more for first class, which has air conditioning, is worth it beyond words. I'm sharing my compartment with Valeriano, who, like so many Mozambican men, spent his working life in South Africa. Hoje vamos para Chiqualaquala?
Sim, é uma viagem.
Uma viagem.
Sim. Tenho família ali.
O senhor trabalhar para muito tempo, muitos anos em África do Sul.
Sim.
De fazer o quê?
Estava a trabalhar nas minas, driver Macalhanha. Underground. Quer dizer, eu terminei em 2014.
1970 to 2015?
Yeah. Tinha 12 meses. 12 months trabalhar nas minas. In fim de 12 months, I'm going to home. I'm coming to Mozambique.
For 45 years?
Yeah.
And família?
Está aqui, em Xaxá. Aqui em Moçambique.
So família olha só tempo par ano.
Yeah. Aqui 1 month.
Não é fácil.
Não é fácil.
These new Chinese-built train carriages are let down only by a lack of running water. Train stations are an opportunity to stretch your legs and buy groceries. On the one hand, I meet people who ask me to photograph them, and on the other hand, I run the risk of the ire of officialdom, as I discover at the next station. I was apprehended by 2 security guards who demanded that I delete everything that I filmed. So it took a bit of talking and firm arguing to get my way out of that. I'm staying inside this train for the rest of the trip with Valeriano, the underground train driver, watching the world go by. Good morning, dear viewer. I would love to say I had a wonderful night's sleep, cosseted by the rocking motion of this new Chinese-made carriage. I did not, however. I was sharing this compartment with 4 people who came and went right through the night, with the door banging open, door banging closed, packing, unpacking, talking. So sleep was rather elusive. After peace returned to Mozambique in the early 1990s, this railway line to Zimbabwe was rebuilt. It's again an invaluable transport link for many people. Probably the people who benefit most, aside from regular passengers and of course the cargo, are the informal traders from Zimbabwe, mostly women, who've had to find a way to make a living during difficult economic times. And they shuttle back and forth between Mozambique and Zimbabwe, buying and selling goods. Let's go meet 1 or 2 of them. In a third-class carriage, I chat to Sheila, a Zimbabwean small-scale trader.
We bought batteries in Zimbabwe, the batteries which people used and then they throw away. Then we collect and come with them here and sell and get money to buy things where Zimbabwe, things cannot found in Zimbabwe, and then other money we send our children to schools.
So you bring the old batteries to Mozambique and you sell them, and then when you return to Zimbabwe, do you take other goods with you?
Yes.
Such as
flask, and then shoes, books.
So the train is really important for you as a lifeline.
Yes.
It's a pleasure getting to know some of these Zimbabwean entrepreneurs and hearing their stories before I crossed the border from Mozambique into Zimbabwe at what must be the world's most modest train station. One of the aspects to this kind of travel is that in my normal life I would never spend a day doing nothing. I can report back that it's a beautiful thing, folks. I look refreshed because I have the good fortune to meet an off-duty policeman who invites me to his house. Here I shower and get changed. It's the kindness of strangers Patricia told me to expect. Taking a walk through these carriages, it's clear this train has seen better days. Yet it's wonderful to sit in these historic 60-year-old compartments, even if not all services are available. This little bottle of water has just become very precious. I went to the bar and discovered that they do not sell water on this train. even though it is probably about 35 degrees or 40 degrees out there. However, the good news is they do sell beer. In the morning, I rehydrate with milky tea and watch how the scenery has changed from lush low veld to dry high veld. I just met a small-scale farmer. He got given 6 hectares of land and during the land reform program when the big commercial farms were taken away and divided up. And he's working his land, and he showed me fertilizer that was given to him by a friend, and he's on his way back to his piece of land, and he invited me to go with him, but my journey is in a different direction. My journey is north. Before leaving Bulawayo, I stop at the Railway Museum to chat to curator Gordon Murray about all things rail, starting in the present. The train's not in a very good condition anymore, the carriages, etc.
No, they are. I believe they've got this 400 million deal from South Africa, and they're going to, I believe they're going to get new passenger coaches and rail wagons and new engines and all the rest of it. So that's a step in the right direction now.
So in due course, the Zimbabwe Railways is going to become a lot more modernized.
Yes.
But visiting Gordon is more about stepping into the past than delving into the present. The concept of the Cape to Cairo train route originated with 19th century arch-imperialist Cecil John Rhodes.
Cecil John Rhodes' dream was to have a railway line from Cape Town through to Cairo for the colonizing of Africa, basically.
But the dream was not really fulfilled.
No, it wasn't, because he died in 1902, and the railway line only reached the falls in 1904.
Victoria Falls.
Yeah, that's Victoria Falls, yeah.
Victoria Falls is the next stop on my rail journey, so I'm curious to know more about the railway bridge engineering feat at the falls. They constructed the bridge in its entirety in England, and then they disassembled it.
Yes.
And then transported it probably
in
by
pieces,
ship.
yes. And then when they actually built the bridge and it met in the middle, it was actually 1 3/4 inches out. It overlapped. Because of the heat up at the falls, it expanded, and that night, the following morning, it dropped into place and they pinned it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the famous Victoria Falls Bridge for myself. To get there, it's an overnight train, and after that I'll continue into central Zambia. Knowing that these historic coaches will soon be no more gives me an added appreciation for this experience. I wonder if the next generation of carriages will be as long-lasting. In the morning, I meet Emma, part of a group traveling my route in reverse, from Cairo to Cape Town. Can you tell me about what were the most interesting places for you as an archaeologist?
Egypt was obviously amazing. You've got all the stuff from the pharaonic periods. You've got the temples and pyramids and everything else. But what really surprised me was actually Sudan. I found the archaeological sites there were fantastic. The first part of the trip has been, I think, like my favourite part, not just because of the archaeology. Ethiopia has been the best so far to find good food. And they have this really good local food, which is like injera, which is kind of bread type thing. And you can get a huge platter with lots of different tasters on, and it's got like curried vegetables, lentils, salads, all sorts. So you can have it as like a dipping platter.
Okay, so Ethiopia is really vegetarian friendly.
Yeah.
Sudanese archaeological sites and Ethiopian food have just been added to my agenda. When it comes to food on this train, a baboon tries its best to access the buffet car kitchen. On this Zambia-Zimbabwe border, there's not just the amazing man-made spectacle that is the bridge you see behind me, built and disassembled and brought here and reassembled 120 years ago. There's also an incredible natural phenomenon just the other side of the bridge. It's hard to make myself heard above this din. Behind me is Mosi Otonya, the smoke that thunders, also known as Victoria Falls, one of the great natural wonders of the world. And now in summertime, the waterfall is building up in intensity. It's a short walk over the bridge to Zambia, where I'll catch my next train. I am, as always, curious about who I'll meet on the Zambezi train, which is named after the river I just witnessed. But first, sleep. These railway tracks are rather worn, so taking a walk is less a case of casual train stroll and more of drunken sailor. But it's a comfortable train, and I'm keen to see what's available to eat in the restaurant car. These fields of maize that we are passing by on the train form what is the staple diet here in Zambia and across southern Africa, in sima, and I'm eating it with beans. However, I'm not eating it with my hands. I draw the line there. I'm eating it with a fork. Who better to find out more about maize from than Kennedy, an agriculture student I'm sharing my compartment with.
This is my first time on a train. It's beautiful. I'm enjoying it. I'm traveling to Kitwe. I want to visit my brother there. It's been 4 years since I saw him.
4 years?
Yeah, it's 4 years. My brother is doing mining. So for me, I thought of doing agriculture.
If you take the train through Zambia, what you see is a lot of amazing looking land, and I know that there are a lot of rivers. Obviously there's a lot of sunshine. That's a recipe for a lot of commercial agriculture, although at this stage it's not that exploited yet.
Yes, it's not yet exploited.
Although there is subsistence farming.
Yes, there's subsistence farming. My dream is to start producing most of the crops as for ourselves rather than importing them. I have a garden back home.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay, what do you grow?
There's maize, pumpkin, groundnuts. I've got gifted hands.
Why aren't more young Zambians like you choosing to study agriculture and become farmers?
Most young Zambians like me, they like taking up like government jobs. Like they'll be well paid, they'll be pensioned.
Zambia is not the only country where joining the civil service is appealing for job security, but I hope Kennedy makes his dream come true and becomes the vanguard of a commercial farming revolution in Zambia. I'm 2 months into what should be the rainy season. However, there have been drought conditions. Most of the places I've been traveling up southern Africa, for example, Victoria Falls, 2 months into the rainy season should be a lot more dramatic than it was when I was there. However, as you can see behind me, it looks like rain is finally arriving, bringing much needed relief to farmers and those of us who are just feeling a tad hot. Wow, I finally made it to Kapiri-Mposhi. The train itself was 6 hours late, so I got to the train station at 4 o'clock this morning. Then I had to wait another 2 hours for a taxi to arrive. In that 2 hours, I discussed matters ranging from ethnicity to family planning and religion with the railway police. Which was very interesting. I didn't record it. I'm sorry, I cannot record every conversation I have. But I think the most unusual question I got asked was, being a white African, which ethnicity I belong to, which tribe I belong to, and I was really stumped at that one. From Kapiri-Mposhi, my journey continues north to the East African coast and then inland to Nairobi. This is the train that Helen, the traveller I met on the first train I took, warned me about. It took her 72 hours instead of the scheduled 48 hours. So we'll see how that goes, but I think delays are to be expected. It's the TAZARA line. It was built by the Chinese in the 1970s, and probably without anyone realizing it at the time, it was a precursor to Chinese involvement in Africa yet to come. The Chinese have been heavily involved with infrastructure development around Africa in recent years, and I'll be seeing some of that soon. A travelling companion is a railway employee who'd prefer not to appear on camera. He says after 40 years of mismanagement, the Chinese will soon be running this railway service as a concession, and that he'll be happy to be paid every month. But who better to ask than a group of Chinese exchange students?
It's very difficult to build this railway. So many countries, they refuse to help it. Only China, they did it. So, and until now, I see it's still going. So I feel very proud of my country.
I think it's very magical because when you sit in this train and go through the same route as those people who build it, they have the same nationality as I do, and now I come here, the same places, and experience the same scenery as they do when they build this train. I feel very magical.
In the 1970s, when China got involved in this really big project, it was still very unusual for China to be in Africa, to be doing anything in Africa. Nowadays, China's become much more involved in Africa with infrastructure development. I'm curious to know what your opinion is about that.
It's like a friendship, because since we start to help the Tanzania about the railway, we build a very good, very big friendly relationship between these two countries.
I don't think it's about friendship. I think it's just a political strategy, and every maybe developed countries have to do this. And I think friendship is among the people. Maybe we came here to help them, and we establish the friendship with the local people. It's not about the government.
Once the immigration officer comes on board to stamp our passports and we enter Tanzania, new opportunities arise for passengers. At each stop, vendors specialize in a different product. Now I realize that TAZARA is not a train journey, it's a major grocery shopping expedition. Morning light filters through the train. These rhythmic sounds have become my music. I am in sync with the iron snake. We're slowly descending from the cool highlands down to the hot plains of Tanzania. When the railway line was built in the early 70s, this was the most complicated stretch. 46 tunnels and 18 bridges are found along this short stretch of descent. A little bit further ahead, one of the most famous game reserves in the world, the Saloon. Usually it's an opportunity to spot wildlife, but seeing as we are very far behind on our schedule, we won't be seeing any wildlife because we'll be passing through at night time. Exactly 24 hours late, we arrive in Dar es Salaam. There are many reasons for undertaking this Cape to Cairo journey. Most of all, it's a take two. 20 years ago, I travelled from Cape Town to Dar es Salaam using only trains and making my first documentary. But my bags containing the tapes were stolen out of a small hotel just south of Dar es Salaam. I'm back for my second effort and taking it all the way up the continent. I bypass Dar es Salaam and hop onto a couple of buses north to Mombasa. Yes, sadly by bus, as there is no train connection on this stretch. When the Mombasa-Nairobi railway line was made more than 120 years ago, originally by the British colonialists, it was made famous by the deaths of more than 35 of the railway workers by two man-eating lions. Today there's much less wildlife and there's a brand new line made by the Chinese. Unlike my last vintage Chinese train, this is fast, comfortable and air-conditioned, with all the amenities you could wish for. As with other new Chinese railways being built around Africa, this mega project was financed mostly by Chinese loans and built by Chinese companies. It buys the Chinese government influence, but it also creates a huge amount of debt. The rhythmic sounds the train makes has the same musicality as every other train I've taken. But at under 5 hours, this is really an intercity express rather than a railway experience. Nonetheless, I'm really pleased for Kenya that it has this new, affordable, modern railway service. But there's more. The new Mombasa-Nairobi railway line forms part of the East Africa Railway Master Plan, which is to link Kenya with Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and other East African states. These further plans for expansion are, sadly, in their infancy, so I am on buses all the way from Nairobi to Khartoum, where I'll catch my next train. First, let's see what Nairobi has to offer. I'm with Tony, a Nairobi taxi driver.
Yeah, thank you, sir, very much.
Good. Hi, Tony. Tony's taking me around Nairobi National Park. Nairobi as a capital city is blessed to have a national park practically in its city with some of Africa's most renowned charismatic wildlife. Let's take a drive around here and see what we can spot.
Hippopotamus, lions, buffalo. I love this country.
I agree, Tony. I only hope construction of the new East Africa Railway network right through this park won't compromise this conservation haven that is so convenient for Nairobi big city dwellers. All too soon, I'm on the road heading north towards Ethiopia. But even the best laid plans can go wrong, as I'm about to be reminded. What an experience I just had. The bus stopped. I thought it was another opportunity to stretch our legs. I got out, I did that, stretched my legs. The next thing, the bus disappears. It's the middle of the night. I sprint after it, but the bus is gone in the distance. I'm standing in the middle of nowhere. My bag is on the bus. What do I do now? So I finally retraced my steps to this little building, and there's a lady waiting for me there. And she says it's okay. The bus is coming back in half an hour. I can't breathe properly. I'm having an asthma attack. And finally the bus does come back and we carry on. Never mind the streets of Johannesburg. I enter Ethiopia at the unassuming border town of Moyale, which only days later will be rocked by bombs and gunfire. But ignorance is bliss, and I enjoy the wonderful coffee and food, having left the culinary wilderness behind. Just as recommended by Emma, who I met on a Zimbabwean train, I order so-called fasting food, the vegetarian option, and it's delicious. The situation in Addis Ababa is calm but tense. My Ethiopian visa is about to expire and there's only one way out of the country. Public transport out of Addis Ababa has been prohibited for a few days because of violence and unrest around Ethiopia, which I narrowly missed on my bus up. As a result, I have to take an aeroplane over to Sudan. But there are no trains on this route, and that's the purpose of my journey. The next train north is from Khartoum. Before I finally catch my next train and head north on rails, I have a little bit of free time here in Khartoum, and I've decided to check out the famous whirling dervishes. These Sufis dance round and around in a circle, entering into a state of trance, the idea being to reach religious ecstasy. Let's check it out. At first, these ascetics receive alms from the public, money which is used to help the poor. The burning of frankincense is considered to be a blessing for those attending. Then, with the tempo increasing and the crowd swelling, dervishes start twirling on their own path to God. From Khartoum, I'll travel up Sudan and then the final leg to Cairo. As in Kenya, a dilapidated old British colonial-era railway service has just been replaced by a brand new Chinese train. In time, this could form part of a new network in East Africa that will make it possible to travel entirely by train from Cape Town to Cairo. While filming the train journey, an elderly man asks me if I have police authorization to shoot video. I think for a moment, then say, police authorization, yes, I have that. Of course I don't. Another typical question I'm asked again is, why are you traveling alone? Where is your family? Today it feels like a good question. I have a friendlier encounter with a young Sudanese guy called Musab. You like the train?
Yeah, train is good.
Train is good?
Yes.
Why?
Train is the fast.
Train is faster.
Faster and good for sitting.
Good for sitting?
Yes.
Comfortable?
Yes.
Okay,
it's good. And the car is boom, too much.
Accidents?
Too much.
Too many accidents in a car?
Yes.
And where are you traveling to today? Where are you going?
Atbara.
Atbara?
Yes.
And what will you be doing in Atbara?
I want to look my family. My grandbrother and center.
Visiting your family?
Yes.
Have you seen them? Has it been a long time?
Yes.
How long?
6 and 7 years.
6 or 7 years?
Yes.
6 or 7 years since you saw your family? Wow.
I'm from Jeddah. I work for Jeddah.
You were working in Jeddah for 7 years?
Yes.
6 years. And did you like Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Yes, Saudi Arabia good?
It's good.
Why is it good?
Work is not work too much. Here, no.
Here in Sudan?
No work.
No work. Sudan used to be wealthier, but when South Sudan seceded in 2011, making it the world's newest country, Sudan lost most of its oil resources. I don't go all the way to Atbara, opting to disembark at Shendi train station after a mere 3 hours. Sudan may have lost a lot of its oil reserves, but the petrol price remains extremely cheap, being very subsidized. That means taking a really long taxi ride, in this case about 50 kilometers, costs next to nothing. I'm en route to explore more of Sudan's cultural heritage, but as I already know, even the best laid plans can go awry. This is not the first time that I'm getting stuck in the desert, although this time I still have my bag with me and it's the middle of the day. We have a flat tire which the taxi driver is busy repairing. It's kind of a miracle that we got this far considering the clutch doesn't work, but we'll get there. Emma was the Cairo to Cape Town traveller I met on a Zimbabwe train, an archaeologist, and she highly recommended that I visit the Merowe pyramids of Sudan, and indeed they are well worth a visit, especially when you consider that Sudan has a lot more pyramids than Egypt, with very few visitors. These were the burial sites for the Merowe kings and queens, and the reason why the tops look blown off is because the tops were blown off by an Italian treasure hunter about 200 years ago. Fortunately, restoration is underway. And yes, the treasure hunter Giuseppe Ferlini did find gold and silver. Continuing to the north of Sudan, my spirits are at a low point. Maybe it's all the aloneness in foreign lands, the stairs, the lack of communication. But I must simply keep going. Something changes here in Wadi Halfa. Something clicks into place. I'm in the travel groove. Watching the world go by for 3 hours, I've stopped worrying. And most disturbing of all, I'm thinking of ways to keep traveling and not stop in Cairo. As Museb, my fellow rail passenger on the last train I was on, said, road transport is dangerous. And I can attest to that. The minibuses in Sudan travel way too fast. So I've opted for a ferry from Wadi Halfa to Aswan, whose pace is positively geriatric in comparison. It's a wonderfully leisurely way to enjoy man-made Lake Nasser, which is over 500 kilometers long and was created by damming up parts of the Nile River in the 1960s. The construction of a new dam in Ethiopia is creating tensions between the countries that share the Nile River and are so dependent on it, particularly Sudan and Egypt, both downstream of Ethiopia. My favorite kind of history is the kind that comes alive, and when it's 2,500 years old, that's pretty impressive. As with Sudan, the Nile is the lifeblood of Egypt, and it's thanks to the Nile that the ancient Egyptian civilization flourished. The river's height would determine how good or how bad the harvest was, feast or famine, and it was the Nilometer that measured this. On my final train to Cairo, I received timely advice from Egyptian tour guide Medat. Yes, it's a strange feeling for me because I've been traveling for 6 weeks, and I think I really enjoyed being on the move and seeing the world going by.
You have to keep going, you don't have to stop, because it's like life. I'm seeing like life. Sometimes in a part of my life I had no work once the tourists stopped, after the Egyptian revolution. So I stayed at home about 3 or 4 months. These 3 or 4 months I was looking for another job for sure, but I couldn't find any other job. Or if I find something, I don't like to work this field, I like the tourism field so much. But at these 3 or 4 months, I was suffering from depression a lot of time. I went to a doctor, by the way, He told me you are suffering from this kind of depression because you stopped moving already. He told me the same word, you stopped moving. You were going anywhere in Egypt, you were traveling, you were seeing people every day, and suddenly you stopped. So his recommendation was very simple. You cannot do anything because it's something out of your hand of the situation in Egypt, but look for any other job, any job in your life, at least to start moving, you know?
I'd like nothing more than to keep moving, and I know I'll find a way. The biggest reward of this journey that's been equal parts challenging and equal parts rewarding has been meeting all sorts of interesting new people, something that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't alone, and all sorts of interesting conversations with these new people that I'll be thinking about for a long time to come. But this trip has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye. Until next time.